What's up, everyone? It's Hattie again, ready to bring you another scouting report for the Habs 2022 NHL draft picks. This time around, we'll be looking at Filip Mešár, the Habs 26th overall pick in the draft, and the second player they selected after Yuri Slafkovsky. So we're going to be making our way down the list of all 11 prospects the Habs picked in the draft, so make sure to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter to keep up with the content as it comes out. So Mešár is a forward who split his time between wing and center this year for HK Paprad in the Slovak League. He's listed as 5'10 and 174 pounds on the Elite Prospects website, but I think when he was weighed and measured at the development camp for the Habs, he was clocked in as 5'9 and 159 pounds. So he's a bit on the slighter side. But despite that, he was still able to play against men and do pretty well this year. He put up 16 points in 37 games for Paprad, 8 goals and 8 assists, and he added 4 points in 6 games in the playoffs. Paprad was pretty rough to watch this year, though. They cycled through 3 different coaches, and systems-wise, they were all over the place, so it was tough to see how Mešár fits into a particular system. And his teammate support was all over the place as well. We'll get into it a bit more when we look at the footage. Mešár also played really well at the international stage for Slovakia. He earned 12 points in 7 games at the U18 World Championship, and also put up 8 points in 5 games at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup as the assistant captain. So, really decent work against his own age group, but I just think it's more important to look at his play against pros right now, just to see how he compensates for his lack of size and strength against bigger competition already. I don't think he has much room to grow, add more weight, or a lot more weight in order to become sort of an average size forward. So it's important for me to see how he compensates for that right now against pros. So the 3 games I have footage and data for are his 6-4 loss against HK Nitra in the Slovak League playoffs. I also have his 7-1 loss against HC Košice here. And the other game I have is his 7-2 loss against HK Zvodien. So despite the scores here, you're going to see this pretty soon, but Mešár was still able to drive really good results and play really well for his team. So now we're going to look at the data and see how he matches up against pros right now. Before we dive into the in-game data and footage, though, I just wanted to take a quick moment and look at how Filip Mešár's points in this league compare to other draft eligibles in the past who played in the same league at the same age. So, in his age group, he sits 13th in the league's history in points per game with .43. The names above him are pretty notable. Marian Hossa, Marian Gaborik are pretty much in a league of their own in terms of points per game, but they also played in a different era. There aren't many names to speak of, but one I found really interesting is way below Filip Mešár here. You've got Thomas Tatar, who had .31 points per game in his draft-eligible season. So it's not like there aren't examples of players that played in this league in their draft year and had lesser production than Mešár's and still managed to make the NHL and be impactful players. Also keep in mind that Mešár, with his size and his lack of strength, putting up these numbers against men is even more impressive. And by the way, again, if you aren't subscribed to the Elite Prospects Premium tool and you like prospects, you're making a mistake. It's pretty much the best tool to be able to look at different prospects, see how they line up against others. You can compare by draft year, by age, games played, goals, points. There's a bunch of things you can look at, so I'd recommend it for sure. Now let's look at some of the data that I collected over the 3 games that I mentioned before regarding Mešár's play in the Slovak Pro League. So again, I've highlighted the important stuff, so feel free to pause and look at the individuals if you want to, but I'll go through this pretty quick. So Mešár played very little on the PK, exactly 6 seconds, so there isn't much to write home about there. He does put most of his shots on net. He is pretty accurate. But if you notice here, he takes a lot of shots from the outside, and we'll get to that in a second. It is one of his weaknesses. Passing-wise, though, there's very little to criticize. He had an 85.4% passing accuracy percentage in those 3 games, and he averaged about 20 passes a game. So he's very involved passing-wise and does a great job. He's also pretty accurate on dangerous passes. But you can see that most of his passes are from the outside to the outside. He doesn't try as many inside lane passes as Slafkovsky does. Slafkovsky had a 20% high danger pass to 10 percentage, but Mešár's is a bit lower. But he did get 2 assists in the sample that I watched. He's also not the best on contested battles, and that's really going to show in the tape that we're going to watch. But that's one main issue as well. But what I found really, really interesting with Mešár is that despite the scores of those 3 games, it was a 6-4 loss, a 7-1 loss, and a 7-2 loss. He was still able to drive positive results at even strength. So his team had more successful passes to the slot for than against when he was there. They had more shot attempts for than against when he was on the ice, and more high danger chances for than against when he was on the ice. So despite the score, he was still driving positive results for his team, which is a very, very good sign for me. It's usually a sign that you have a player that's playing on a bad team, but that is actually really good. So I think that's the case with Mešár here. He's also pretty good in transition. He averaged about 1 3-line carry a game, but it was mostly because he prefers passing out of his zone and into the zone. So he was still very good in transition. We'll look at that in the tape as well. And defense-wise, pretty average in terms of takeaways and turnovers. Kind of disruptive. But what I like is that despite his size, he was still able to put up 5 body checks in that sample. So overall, a pretty good sample of stats here for Mešár. There are some glaring weaknesses that we'll look at, but a lot of real interesting strengths that are really going to show in the tape that we're going to watch. So now let's get into the footage. So you're going to be looking for number 10 in white or blue for Filip Mešár. So the first thing we're going to look at is the most obvious strength, in my opinion, of his, which is his skating. It's very fluid. It's very dynamic. It helps him build up speed through transitions and makes him a really dangerous transitional player. What I also really like is the fact that he's able to make plays at high speeds and doesn't stop his emotions through his skating. So he skates the puck up the ice and doesn't hesitate to pass through his crossovers. He doesn't really stop or slow down in order to make plays, which I think is really going to help him transition to the NHL level, because at the NHL level, you need a lot of pace and you need to use it well. It doesn't do much to be fast if you're not making plays at a high speed. So he's really good on breakouts. He assists his team on breakouts and reloads pretty well under the puck to gain speed and find other lanes, like that just there. And also his motor is unrelenting. He never stops, and it helps him get additional chances, additional puck touches, and just makes him an overall menace in transition. Here again, just unrelenting. He keeps going, never stops, and it gets the puck into the offensive zone. He pushes through contact really well as well when it's an open ice. And he's able to shoot through his skating motions, which is very translatable as well. Again, here's a clip of him just assisting the breakout, reloading low to help his teammates. This is one of the reasons why I think Mešár will be a great center, is how good he is at identifying opportunities to assist his defensemen on breakouts and how good he is on the puck. And it also leads him to some great offensive chances. It leads his teammates into better areas. It helps him make one-touch plays like these. Just in general, he has a very translatable game, and here it's gonna earn him a goal as he crashes the net and gets a stick on it. Next thing we're going to look at in Mešár's game that's really impressive is his off-puck positioning and awareness. So he does a great job of funneling to the slot at the right times to find opportunities to shoot, but also moves really well off the puck to make himself a pass option. Here's a play I really want to highlight. I think it really shows off his awareness and his ability to manipulate opponents. So as he's rushing towards that loose puck, he's going to make the defenseman think that he's going to engage in that puck battle, but at the last moment he's going to back off, and the defenseman's going to rim it, thinking that he's not going to be there, and Mešár just easily cuts off that pass and extends possession for a while. He just does a great job also of identifying his teammates' routes and understanding his assignments. So as his defenseman is pinching there, he's going to switch with him and cover the blue line. This does take him out of the play, and I think it's a system thing here with Paprad, which is why I think that he could have had a lot more points than the results he put up in the regular season. Again, he's going to switch with his defenseman there and cover the blue line. The system in Paprad, I think, sort of sheltered Mešár a bit offensively and prevented him from showcasing his full potential. He does a great job of getting involved and identifying when he should be the person covering the loose pucks. He cycles the puck really well, is really aware of where his defenseman and his teammates are at all times. And here's a really great play from him that I want to highlight as well. So he's going to rush towards his teammates to offer assistance, but as the defenseman follows him to the boards, he's just going to break for a second and let them engage in a physical battle, and then he's going to re-engage once he knows where the puck is, and this gives him an opportunity to get that loose puck. He tries a backhand pass here on the spin, but it doesn't work out too well. Again, just does a great job of getting involved at the right moments and reading when he should be involved. And another play here where he funnels towards the slot for an offensive chance. So really just a very aware player. He understands spacing very well. He understands where he should be and when he should access those locations on the ice. And what I really like as well is that he doesn't just stop after making a pass. He tends to follow his passes into dangerous ice. Here's a play where I really think that his teammates should have been able to find them there in the slot instead of just getting out-muscled and losing the puck. He does a great job of just finding space and making himself available, but sometimes his teammates just don't read the play as well as he does. Here's the only bad play I saw from Mešár in terms of positioning. So as the puck goes around the net here and his opponent gets it, I don't think he ever should have gone behind the net here. I think he should have stayed in front in order to cover that shot, and it set at least to a goal. Again, another example of Mešár finding space off the puck and keeping his stick ready in order to make himself a good outlet for his teammates. This is something that really smart players do, is they make everyone around them smarter. So they're so good at making themselves an option off the puck that you just look smarter by giving them the puck when actually all they're doing is just making themselves such an obvious pass option that you have no other choice than to respect them. Here's a play where he intercepts a puck using spacing again. He's going to break at the blue line and find his teammate on the far side, and it's going to lead to a goal. This was a secondary assist from him. So his ability to identify space off the puck generally leads to him having decent scoring chances, and he makes himself available really well to his teammates. So the next thing we're going to look at in Mešár's game is how his playmaking works well with his other attributes to make him a better distributor. So he finds his options really quickly. His awareness is really good, and that helps him find his teammates in decent areas to make plays with speed and accuracy. He's also able to find his outlets for pressure really well in the breakout to make plays and facilitate zone exits. He plays pucks into areas for his teammates with space ahead of them to make plays. And one really translatable thing he does is he skates through his passes. So instead of breaking here and stopping his motion, he skates through his pass, and that's what we typically call a give and go play. He does this really well. Here's another impressive play from him as he hangs onto a puck through a check and then again finds an outlet for pressure for a breakout. He does a great job of locating his teammates quickly and getting them pucks in really good areas. Again, just follows his pass into an open space. He gets a puck back and gets a shot off. His decision-making on the breakout is really solid. He's able to identify which pass to make. Again, follows his pass into space. You're going to see that a lot from him. And one thing I really like that he does here is his deceptiveness. His off-look pass here is pretty solid. That's something that's translatable. And I'm going to choose to believe that this pass was intentional. He plays a puck on his backhand and does a really great job of finding his teammate through the crease, through an opponent's legs, right on the stick for a chance. And the way he supports pucks and plays small area passes really well is also pretty solid. I think usually smaller players, their small area playmaking needs some work, but in his case, that's not true. Also, I love the way that he's able to catch bad pucks and turn them into good pucks. This leads to a pretty decent shot on net here. Again, just great support off the puck. He puts the puck off the boards for himself, toe drags around the net, and if his teammate reads that a bit better, that's a tap and goal. But instead, it's a bit of a broken play. He's still in a decent area for his teammate to get it back, but not ideal. And I love his one-touch playmaking again. Just does a great job of finding his options quickly and getting them the puck. He's also good on the rush because of this specific tool, which we saw with Slafkovsky, which is using the opponent's triangle to find teammates. So he does a great job of passing under sticks for his teammates to be able to make plays off the rush. A couple of face-off clips now. Mešár did a pretty good job in the dot, despite being only 17-18 playing against men. He did only win 6 out of 15, about 40%, but the wins that he did get were pretty clean and did usually end in decent scoring chances for his team. The only major loss he had here led to a goal. Otherwise, the losses that he does get are pretty broken plays where he needs to fight for possession afterwards. But these wins here are pretty clean. And look at this little play right here. Pushes the puck behind the defender, tries to get around him, and draws a penalty as a result. So pretty good face-off play from Mešár in general. Now we'll look at a couple of Mešár's weaknesses, and I'll start with probably the most obvious one, which is his puck protection. I don't think he has the best mechanics along the boards, and for a player his size, you really need to rely on your mechanics. Here's a good example of that. So instead of pushing his hand out or putting his leg out in order to protect the puck and avoid a poke check, he holds it on the backhand with both hands, and it leads to a turnover and a decent scoring chance for the opposite team. There are a couple of examples of this, especially along the boards. I don't think he uses his skating well enough. He has a decent stride. He has great edge work, but I don't think he gets down low well enough, and he gets out-muscled pretty easily as a result. In the Habs system, you have Xavier Simoneau, who's probably the best at puck protection, and he's 5'6" and 175 pounds. So it's really not about size. It's mainly the issue of using your body well. Here's a pretty humiliating example of that. So Mešár actually goes for a slew foot and ends up falling instead of making the opponent fall. So there are examples of this pretty much in general. Again, just gets out-muscled pretty easily. He does have the intensity to push through checks, but he does get pulled down pretty easily. He gets pushed off the puck and just generally doesn't do the best job of protecting the puck when he has it. But again, intensity is the name of the game for him. Here's a good example of Mešár doing something good followed by something bad. So gets involved pretty intelligently along the boards. But as he turns around here, he's just going to get pinned along the boards and just sort of lose the puck pretty easily, given that he doesn't have the best protection. But in open ice, he's really good at using his edge work in order to push off opponents. He's really hard to knock when he's not along the boards, but as soon as he has the boards around him, that's when it gets difficult for him. But again, great intensity is just a matter of improving his mechanics. Another issue I think with Mešár's game is his defensive play. Even though he's really aware and really smart in terms of identifying where and when to be in order to intervene, I still think he does a pretty poor job of actually getting sticks on pucks. So he's pretty porous. He's easy to pass through, and that's something he'll need to rectify in order to be more impactful at the next level, because his intensity is among the best in this class. He's really hard on puck carriers. He does a great job of putting in second and third efforts, just like this, in order to disrupt play. But in general, I just think that he's not the best in terms of actually stopping pucks with his stick. But there's a lot of situations here in his defensive play where it's not really his fault. It's just his teammates making sort of weird reads and pinching at the wrong moments, especially his defenseman. And it puts him in situations where he's sort of the last line of defense. But I think he could still stand to improve his ability to get sticks on pucks, to disrupt opponents, and that paired with his intensity, if he does improve that part of his game, I think his defense could be a decent part of his game that's really projectable and carries well to the NHL level. But otherwise, he's pretty easy to pass through. He's pretty easy to get around, and I think that Poprad still, plays a system that forces him into really unfortunate situations where he's the one that actually has to defend opposing rushes instead of his defenseman. But he still did a good job this year, I feel, of getting involved defensively and covering for his teammates. I really think that situations tend to shape the way players play. And given the amount of defensive situations that Mešár was forced into, I still think he could have shown more improvement in this area as the year went on. But truly, if Mešár improves this part of his game, being a good stick-on-puck player on top of his awareness, on top of his intensity, would make him a really, really good defensive player at the next level. I think Mešár's shot selection also needs some work. He takes a lot of shots from the periphery and it leads to some less than ideal scoring chances. So I think getting in between the dots for his shot would help him a lot, because the shot itself in isolation is pretty good. He's got good mechanics and gets some weight on it. But getting inside the dots for his shots will really take his goal scoring to the next level. So to recap, Mešár's base of fluid skating, high-end hockey sense, and top-of-the-class intensity make him a player with many projectable strengths. Those three core elements are what make him a great playmaker, an outstanding transition driver, an intelligent and calculated forechecker, and they're what lead him to take the best off-puck routes possible to create offense away from the play. If he improves his puck protection mechanics, his ability to clog up lanes with his stick, and especially if he learns to gain the middle more frequently with the puck for his passes and shots, Mešár's entire game would be elevated as a result. His skating would serve him better between the dots, his forechecking would lead him to even more turnovers, and he would be able to hang on to pucks along the boards more often after stealing them from opponents. I think adding weight on his frame should help him in most of those areas, though. He needs some work, but Mešár could top out as a tremendous top six forward at the NHL level, the type of guy who's going to get the puck up the ice and keep it there at all costs. But without that work that's needed, there's a chance that Mešár doesn't even make it past the third line. I think this is a solid bet for the Habs at 26 overall, though, and it's a risk they can afford to take in that range given the amount of selections that they had. So that's it for me today. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Twitter to keep up with the rest of my scouting work. I'm going to put the link to my account in the description below. And I'll see you soon as we take a look at Owen Beck's strengths, weaknesses, and NHL projection in my next scouting report in the next coming days. Howdy out.